and then we'll go ahead and get started. So I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your evening with me. I am going to end around 8 o'clock. At least that's my goal for tonight. Okay. And I am, if I've got another meeting, believe it or not, after this. So we have been, for those of you that are just joining us or don't know, we were talking a little bit before we started the recording about the South Carolina conference coming up. We're excited about that. One of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is, so in the last week, I've experienced a lot of ups and downs in my life. I got to travel out to Utah for a training for a few days with the company that I'm with, and it was kind of fun and very enlightening as well. And then my house went back under contract again. I'm not as excited as before, since now this is the third time, and I hope it lasts. I think when I show up at closing and they're actually there, then I'll woohoo it. And then I found out my stepbrother has cancer of the lung, and I went to a memorial service of a man who was 48, almost 49 years old. I think his birthday was tomorrow. Someone that passed away of liver cancer, one of our fellow single adults. And I got to take in a lot of general conference, which was kind of awesome. In addition, I've heard ups and downs all through the week, and even prior to that, of the single adult program. For those of you that don't know, I have been asked to head up the committee for the Atlanta area. We we have 12 states in our Atlanta area that we work with, and we run the single adult program that way. There, and I head up the committee. When I was originally asked to do this, I was told it would be a temporary stint, gig, whatever you want to call it, and probably less than a year is what I was told. And I think now we're going on 4 years. And there's a huge part of me that wants to say, hello? This is supposed to be a short gig, because it's an assignment, not necessarily a calling, right? Because I don't know that I can have a regional calling, but I have a state calling. It's the single adult rep in my state. And I get a lot of pros and cons to the program. There's a lot of people that I feel honored that they feel comfortable enough to approach me about suggestions for the program. However, I do also know that there are some people that, rather than offering suggestions or help, will complain about it and have stopped attending the different events. And maybe they're planning to come back when I'm no longer heading it up. I don't know. But I'd be more than happy for anybody to take over my position because this isn't something that I necessarily want or said, ooh, pick me. I have a very strong testimony of the single adult program in the church, and I have a love for the single adults that I serve. And I totally love the committee that I work with. They're just fabulous, fabulous people. And then in addition, last year I was approached to head up the committee for the Southeast Mega Conference, which again was an honor and it's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of ups and downs. There's been a lot of opposition with that one, more so than I've experienced in the past with planning anything. And so that tells me that it's going to be just a fabulous conference. Because when Satan really tries extra hard to stop something, it means something great's happening. So, and he's tried extra hard. He's put in some overtime. So with that, this conference has really hit home to me in a lot of ways. And I've asked a few people to share your big takeaways from this conference. And if you guys are okay with it, I'm going to just put everybody here on the panel that is joining in. If you don't want to be, let me know. Jennifer, can we just start with you? Can you share with us some of your takeaways from this conference?
Sure. The really big thing for me is the need to repent now, no matter where you are. Doesn't matter uh, how in tune to doing good that you feel you are, that we're still asked to repent and do even better. And that is the thing that really stood out to me, is that this need, this desire for us to really put the shoulder to the wheel and get going, so that when the time comes, and it sounds like it's coming, we really need to be prepared for it. And that was my biggest takeaway from it. I mean, there was other things as well, but that was kind of a really big thing for me this time, is like, it doesn't matter how in order your house is, so to speak, let's do better. And the other really big thing was that I just had it and I totally lost it. Yeah, maybe I'll think of it again. I'm sorry. I was prepared with two things, but that's okay.
That's totally okay, because, this lasts for a while. So when you think of it again, you let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that really hit home to me, and I think because among my 5 kids, I've had one of them just completely leave the church. And that has been so hard for me as a mom. Watch her do that. And you just have to sit back as if I have no choice in the matter. Because she's 25, she'll be 26 at the end of the month, And so for me, being able to have my feelings in the matter validated this weekend of pleading with her to come back, but of still loving her, as the older Uchtdorf would say, You love them no matter what. And I do love that woman with all my heart and soul. I think she's a fabulous person. I think she's, she's just a wonderful person, but for whatever reason, is not where I feel like she needs to be spiritually or in the church. And, I've had a couple of my sons kind of go through the process of not sure, about the church through their years. And that's pretty normal, right? I think most of us go through that at some point. But it's also helped me to think about that in relation to single adults, not only just with my own family, but also because single adults are like my second family. And how many people are feeling kind of lost, or like they don't belong, or like life didn't turn out the way they were supposed to be, or the way that it was supposed to be. I've done this, and this. Why isn't my life, X, Y, and Z? Or I've heard a lot of people say, I quit. I give up. I'm going to stop trying. Sorry. I promise you guys, if you're new, I'm not usually this emotional. Although there have been a couple of times I have been, so I can't say that completely, can I? Anyway, so it touches my heart just because I know these people, right? Like, I love these people. I've been working with single adults in my position now since 2012. So it's not like I'm new to this, right? Like, I've known so many people, and I watched them come and I watched them go, and I watched many get married, and I celebrate them. And I just had to attend a memorial service of somebody that died way too young 2 days ago. And we have all these different experiences as single adults, and so much that we go through. And life did not turn out the way that we wanted to. I think we all can agree on that. Can we? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Like, this was not what we had planned, right? Yeah. Mary's out. Yep. This is one where I don't know in the era you grew up in, or if you grew up in the church, but my parents were in the church when I was 7. So I pretty much just grew up in the church, and I grew up in Alabama, the Bible Belt, and I grew up with a very authoritative father that pretty much told me that if I was a good girl and I did this, and this, then I would be living happily ever after. And sadly, I think a lot of us grew up being taught that. I don't know about you, but that was the way I grew up being taught. And so when I hit my 20s and I went through my first divorce, I was like, this isn't happily ever after. This isn't the way it was supposed to be. I didn't even know, and I don't want this to offend anybody that's watching this or that's on the call, but I didn't even know that there was a porn addiction. I didn't even know that was a thing. I was so naive and so sheltered growing up. I didn't even know that was a thing, you know? And then to have the man that I married and married in the temple and everything tell me that he wanted to marry another woman was just like, this isn't it, right? And I remember feeling so disillusioned and almost like I was in another realm. And this was years ago. This was like me in my 20s. So I'm in my 50s now. So that was a long time ago. But that was like another realm of life for me. I almost felt like I was walking around in a daze, like, now what? Because this wasn't in my plan. You know, I was going to get married in the temple. We were going to have kids and live happily ever after. That was my plan. And I think because so many of us thought that, there are a lot of people that feel like, well, it didn't work out the way I wanted. I guess the church isn't true, or the Lord's not looking out for me, or whatever, and they want to kind of blame an outside whatever. And rather than realizing people have choices, you know, people have agency. It's not free, but they have their agency. And we all have our agency now as single adults to choose whether we cling to the Lord and we work on our relationship with the Lord, just as we were told during General Conference this weekend. That is so imperative. That what was it that President Nelson said? I think he said salvation is an individual thing and exaltation is a family thing. Isn't that what, did I get that right?
Right.
So that is like so important that we work out our own salvation. Now, while exaltation may be a family thing, again, not all of our family members may make it with us, but mainly because of their choices, not ours. We've got to do our part. And it's going to take action. I can't remember who said that one, but they were talking about how we need to put action forth in doing something. And so it could be the same way when you look at it from the standpoint of a single adult. A lot of people will say, well, it's not working out for me to date, or it's not working out for me to get married, or, you know, all men are this and all women are that. And you know, I mean, I hear and I read so many things because it's just all over the place. And so many people are at their own stages and their own phases of dealing with or healing from their loss or their grief, whether it be from divorce or a death of a spouse, or those that have never been married. And something that has hit home to me is just in realizing that if we will take action to do whatever necessary, and we trust in the Lord and His timing, I definitely did not think I was going to be single for this long. It just didn't even think it was just going to happen. But this June will be, is it June? June will be 11 years and since my divorce was final. And didn't think I was going to be single this long. But I will tell you this, the process of personal development that I've gone through, and spiritual development, spiritual growth, whatever you're going to call that, in that time, my relationship with my family, in that time, my relationships with my friends, my testimony of other aspects of the gospel, so much better than it was 12 years ago when everything happened. So I feel like, much like was talked about this general conference, if we would use this time to prepare ourselves to be the person that the Lord wants us to be, to prepare ourselves to be the right one rather than looking for the right one. I think I'd said that maybe last week or the week before too. But to take action. Are we really supporting the single adult program, or are we saying, well, that's not the way I think it should be ran? And it's totally okay, Daniel. You're funny. Yeah. That's hilarious. Daniel here says, sorry I'm late, I was filling in the Meijer. So I'm glad you're here. Anyway, so So if we will take action, right, to attend the single adult events, whether there's 20 people there or 200, or maybe even 2, I've been to a couple of those. Whether it's being ran like we think it should be ran, I can tell you now, there are plenty of people who think in the Atlanta area that our program is not being ran the way that they think it should be ran. And if they want to step up to take my place, I'll be more than happy to step aside. But, or I can have them come join us either way, totally okay with that. But instead of judging it, just know that people are putting in their best. A lot of us are dealing with stuff that it's kind of heavy, right? Single parents, you've got kids at home, or if you've got, you know, other stuff going on, the jobs and whatever. To me, it's easier, and maybe this is just me, I don't know, but it was easier to be married because you got to share the load. As a single adult, when you've got to still carry the same load moving forward, it's a little bit more challenging. Not to say that it can't be done, but, you know, there's just more to do. And I know that for me, I've had to rely on the Lord a lot, and been able to have friends that have lifted me up. And one of the big things about the single adult program, or the events that I really enjoy the most, quite honestly, is using it as an escape socially. I can go there and nobody's going to call me mom. Don't call me mom. Nobody's going to call me mom. Nobody's going to say I need it. Well, no. Somebody might say I need or I want something to me now, but you know, not from a mom standpoint, right? It's just a little different. It's more of a fun thing, and it's more of a giving thing, and that's something that I've needed. So those are some of my takeaways from conference today, and those are just a few. I've had others as well. But I would like to open this up to any of you that may like to share your takeaways from conference, and as it relates to your life, single adults, or whatever else that you feel. Anybody want to unmute yourself and share your thoughts? Sorry, it's a little warm in my house today.
I think that Paula, you, I don't know the woman's name who already talked. I don't even know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay. You've hit the two main points that impressed me. Like you, I got blindsided 10 years ago, so I've been divorced 10 years now, which is the longest I have ever been single. And I've had a lot of self-reflection. I've had a lot of growth. I don't think I'm finished yet, but I don't think I'm ever going to be finished. And all of my children have not left the church, but they're all inactive, and they have been for many years now. And it helped me to hear in conference that it's their choice, and I just keep hanging on, because you can't give up on your kids, and you never know when something is going to happen to bring them around. I know that when my mother died, New Year's Day 2003, a year later, I was visited by her and my grandmother. And they told me that I needed to let Jesus take care of my children instead of me trying to constantly bring them around, that I needed to trust Jesus to do it.
Right. I think that's part of the beauty of the gospel, right? Like even in General Conference this weekend, that was something that brought me hope, is just knowing that it's never too late, that no one has done something so horrible or so far gone or whatever that it's too late for them to come back. And I think of the parable of, is it the laborers, where they are paid the same amount no matter what time of day they come into work, right? And so it can be a lot of the same things now, no matter what time you come back to the gospel, no matter how far gone, or no matter what you've done or whatever, it's never too late for anybody. And that's what gives me hope with my children. Well, at least with my daughter. My sons are good now. They're okay. But my daughter is like, she's out there. But it also gives me hope with my brother, who also thinks he's too far gone. He's in his late 40s, and he said, Paula, I'm just too far gone. I've just done too much. And I'm like, no, but he doesn't realize that, and no matter what I say, I'm just a sister, I'm like the mom. So, because our mom passed away back in 2011. So, and I'm the oldest. So it's like, yeah, but you're going to say that anyway. But anyway, it is something where no matter what, and this is something I even share with other single adults, it's just no matter what, no matter where you're at, whether you're at in being single, where you're at in grieving the loss, where you're at in whatever stage of life you're in, we're here for you. That's what the single adult program is for, and that's what the gospel is for, and that's what friends are for. And we're here to support you, to encourage you, to embrace you in coming back. Now, that is not to say that there are not people out there that will be critical and judging and self-righteous and whatever. There's nothing we can do about them. Except it's up to them to embrace their own relationship with the Lord and overcome pride and whatever, right? But I can be opinionated on certain things too. I think we all can at some point, right? Like, that's why we don't really talk politics here, but we talk other things, right? Because this is more religious based. But there are times though that when you embrace the gospel and you truly understand the atonement is for everyone. It's for everyone, no matter what. No matter what. And to be able to have a conversation with, say, a former spouse or somebody who's wronged you or whatever, and be able to forgive them no matter what. Now, that doesn't come easy, and it's not going to come right away for a lot of people, but it can happen. And then also with who you are in the gospel and where you're at in the gospel is huge, because your relationship with the Lord is just imperative. And then to be able to take action on that testimony and take action in supporting the program. Too many people look at the single adult program as a what's in it for me. Am I right? Too many people say, well, I don't really like to dance. Or they may say, I just don't like to go hiking. Or they may say, that's just not my thing. You guys heard any of those?
All of them.
I hear it all the time. All the time. But I tell you, we stopped. There was a time a few years back, we had heard a few people, probably a handful of people, complaining about the dances here in Atlanta. So we decided, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe 4. We decided that we'd do a dance once a quarter. We had, I don't know, maybe 100 or so people coming, and people were thinking that was just not enough people to come, because in the Atlanta area we have like 10,000 single adults, 2,000 that are active in the church. And so then they thought, well, let's just do a dance once a quarter. And this was back before I took over as or I was asked to head up the committee. So we did a dance once a quarter, and the other 2 second Saturdays would just do activities or game nights or whatever. And that pretty much killed the program. So much so that during that year that we did that, people were confused on what we were doing. And the nights that we would have a game night, we might have 5 people show up. The nights we had a dance, we might have 20 to 30 people show up, because other people were like, wait a minute, are we doing that this time or not? So then we went back to having them every month, and now we're slowly building back up to our regular attendance type stuff. And that has been helpful. But what I have found, though, is that there will be people that will be saying, hey, this isn't what I want to do, or this isn't for me, or this isn't whatever. I can tell you there takes a lot of courage to show up at a single adult event for the first time. Even, I don't know, even more than that probably. But the first time to me is the hardest. Anybody else want to disagree with that one? Because you don't know what to expect, right? You're like you're walking into a dark hole, like the unknown, right? Like you don't know what to expect. Do you know anybody or whatever? Especially if you got to go by yourself. So I always recommend that you, that you go with a friend, go with somebody, especially on your first time. There's got to be somebody in your ward or in your state that you know that's single, and you can go with them. Because going for your first time it can be kind of a scary thing. And then there's all the myths about the single adult program and what the purpose of and what it's there for and da 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 da. And so much misinformation. When single adult program is there to encourage, to uplift, to fellowship, to socialize, that kind of thing. Most people are under the impression that it's more of a matchmaking thing or a dating thing or whatever, and it's really not. However, there are people that do go with a purpose to meet somebody, and most of the time they leave disappointed because it doesn't happen on that first time or two, right? It takes time to put into developing relationships and friendships that will develop over time in a healthy way. And that's more the purpose of our program, is to develop those friendships and fellowship, whether it leads to marriage or not. Doesn't matter. It's just more that we get the friendships and fellowships in there. Now, do we want people to get married and live, in an eternal marriage? Definitely. But that's not the purpose of the program. That's not the purpose of our planning events anyway.
I'm feeling like the odd man out here.
Oh, hold on. We got a couple people here.
Okay.
Okay, I had Wynn and somebody else making a comment.
It was Jennifer, but go ahead, Wynn.
Okay, go ahead, Wynn.
Okay. I feel like an odd man out with your comments about coming to single adult things with other people. Oh,
Wynn, that's just you. You're okay with going back.
Well, the reason I say that is, as you know, at least partly, I travel by myself most of the time, except for my last trip down to Atlanta and this one with the mega conference. But all the other things that I have gone to in Charlotte, in Raleigh, Winston-Salem, Virginia, South Carolina, I always travel alone. And so, and I'm actually a little more comfortable that way. But I've gone through phases where I've gone to these things and I've had some trepidation, and then I get there and something spiritual happens to me when I attend that I know that I was really supposed to be there.
Right.
And I get something out of it. And I told somebody today at conference at church, yes, I would like to get married again, but I don't feel desperate, and I'm not, contrary to what one young man thought, just because I ask him to dance doesn't mean I want to marry him or date him.
Right. I understand that. Well, and more my point in going by yourself was more, especially the first time. I go by myself now all the time, but I've been doing this for so many years, so it's a lot easier. Plus, I'm going into a group of friends. I'm not going into the unknown. What my recommendation more is just when you're going into the unknown and you don't know people, go with a friend if you can. I mean, if you feel courageous enough to go by yourself, go right ahead. But if you're there for the first time or whatever, you might want to do it. It's a little bit easier to ease into that.
Right.
Jennifer, you had a comment?
I did. I was just going to say, just because there is a dance going on does not mean you have to participate in the dance. There are things like sitting around and chatting, if that is your thing. I've been to a lot of these activities in a lot of different areas. There's not a whole lot going on in the Richmond area right now, and so I'm willing to travel. I'm at a place in my life where I can do that, and I'm very happy that I can. for the relationships that I've been able to develop there. Most of these folks have games available for those people that are not interested in dancing. And there's no way you can hit something for every single person, but I do believe in most cases, all of the stakes, all of the, groups that are actively doing stuff, try to put as much out there for people as possible. I mean, I've done canoeing, which is not necessarily my thing, but I wanted to do it because it's fun and it opens me up to new things. If I've never done it before, how do I know if I like it or not?
Yeah.
And so I think that this gives us an opportunity to be able to try new things that we may discover that we like. And hey, if you can make friends and keep those friends and, visit them from time to time, like Paula lives in Georgia. I consider Paula one of my friends. We don't get to see each other all that often, but when we're together, we enjoy that. And I feel that way about so many people down south. Like, I just want to move down there because it's so awesome down there. But
we want you here.
I know that's not in my cards right now, but for the right man, I'd make that move.
I've thought about moving to Charlotte or to Atlanta because I know people in both of those places.
Right.
And then I think the problem is if I move down to either of those places and I happen to meet that person, then I'm going to be married and I'm not going to be able to go to the single adult stuff anymore.
The purpose of being a main, right? Yeah. That's funny. But Jennifer, yeah, I appreciate your comments. And I was actually thinking the same thing, so I'm glad that you brought that up. At a dance, I have sat at so many tables, and I'm known for table hopping, where I'll go and I'll talk to different groups during the dance to get to know people and to talk to them and make friends. And that has been one of my very favorite things to do, is just being able to go and sit around a table, and every once in a while somebody will come up and say, hey, Paula, I want to dance. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm here for, sure. Let's go do that. But otherwise, I just like being able to sit around and just talk to people and just chat and get to know them. So that's a fun thing to do too. And I like the game idea. There are sometimes we've done games. I know there have been sometimes we set up a game room, like in the Relief Society room, and then we have the dance in the gym, but then nobody goes into the Relief Society room to play the game. So I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't have the right crowd there to do the games. But
you've offered it though, and so that's an option for them, and that's all that you can do is just give people options so that they're as comfortable as they possibly can. Because like we've talked about, it's awkward for some people to dance. It's awkward for people that are just going through a divorce or the loss of their loved one or whatever, to get back out there. And one of my very best friends has been widowed now for 10 years. And she still very much has a difficult time getting back out there and, just being her again. She doesn't know how to be her without him. And, she has grown so much. I'm super proud of her because she stretches herself every activity. It becomes easier and easier and easier for her. And I could not be more proud of her for
that's awesome.
doing such a hard thing.
Well, and I was just thinking, as somebody who just joined the church 6 years ago, but had been a widow for 10, the difference in the group, the single adults group versus people not in the church, because it's such a blessing to have people you can feel safe with and you can talk with, and that you can, and that are going to be constructive. In general, I mean, we're all human, but everything else. I mean, it's almost a refuge sometimes especially when you don't really feel like getting out, but you need to get out, or you need to get into a talk and you're going, oh, I should just go on and go upstairs and not do this tonight. But I really wanted to talk to some people and see them and meet them and talk about conference with somebody. I'm here by myself, and it's really exciting to be able to just have people that you are like-minded that you can get with. And if you're a single person out in the other religions that I was in the Lutheran church, it's totally different. They're not constructive. Everybody goes out bar hopping, I mean, I just, it's in there. They're not, I've never been in a group of people where when someone is missing, there's not every place else I've been, it's been backstabbing and kind of snide remarks and and it's not like that in the group. It's like they're concerned and they're hoping, wishing them well and enjoying them. And so I'm so grateful for this group. And even though I don't get to come as much as I'd like, I'm really, really grateful for it. And I liked Sister, what was her name? Sister Craven's talk about not to be casual about it. And you shouldn't even be casual about your friendship with people, because there might be somebody in that group that even if you maybe don't need to necessarily go, someone needed to talk to you. And I have had friends who said they don't know what to do about their kids. And I said, well, you have to act on impulses, because maybe you're supposed to go and help someone else's kid. If you got an impulse to do something, you should do it, because that's what they've been praying for. Is that if they're not listening to the parent, and you may very well be saying the exact same thing that they've been telling them for 10 years. I mean, it doesn't get out of teenagerville even when they get older. But and I sit there and I go, I so agree that if you act on that impulse. I had one lady that she I didn't even hardly know her, but she got up from church and went out, and I knew she was upset, and she was a recent widow. And the Spirit just said, get up. And I just got up and left in the middle of the church to go after her. And we had a great talk, and and she felt comfortable because I'm a widow and she's a widow, and I know what she was going through. So sometimes, if you're not even casual about that, I think we need to be careful about everything we do, and to make sure we're in a group of people that's really going to be sustaining us, and to be and know that we can trust each other.
I really appreciate that. I really do. It has been just humbling to me when someone is the answer to my prayer, or when I get to be that for someone else. So I appreciate you sharing your thoughts there. Carmen, you had your hand up. Did you have some thoughts you wanted to share? Hold on, let me unmute you. I can't seem to unmute you. Can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay. So that I was gonna say the same thing.
Uh-oh, did we lose her?
She's been going in and out a lot.
Oh,
She's
okay.
been leaving and coming back in.
Okay. Carmen, are you back with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
saying that I like to travel. I like to meet new people, but I mean, I love to go to Atlanta all the time, but it's kind of far for me. And, I don't really know many people over there to, like I can spend a night or something to go in the activities. But I love, where there is a lot of people. Like when I was in Washington, it was really good because there's a lot of singles over there. The activities are really good. And West Virginia was the same thing. So I've been around too, but I want to get a little bit more close to Atlanta.
Yeah.
To be able to, I see that there's, a lot of people. And in here in Dothan, we just don't have that many people that want to get together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to say. That
I appreciate that.
it's like, yeah, it's not like I really want to go and meet somebody. That will be great to meet somebody, but I like to meet people and have people everywhere. That I know people from all over the states.
Yep, that's
So,
awesome. Yeah, so I don't know if you're aware, but most wards average between 80 to 150 single adults in your ward. You can go to your clerk and just say, hey, can I get a list, that you have to do a custom list, of the single adults 31 and older in your ward, and then count them up. 80 to 150 is the average for the ward. So for a stake, the average is anywhere from 800 to 1,500, depending on how big your stake is. But it's a third of the adult population in the church. Okay, lots and lots of people. That's why we have this program. That's why I was inspired. They did talk about us as single adults several times during conference today. Did you guys hear that?
Yes.
Most sessions. Because Sister Kane, Christy Kane, who's coming to speak to us at one of the workshops for the South Carolina conference, she actually meets with the apostles and talk to them about the single adult program. And I've gotten to sit in on a phone conversation with her, not with the apostles, but with her and some of the other single adult stake reps to share with her that she can relate back to them about things that we feel like we need as single adults in the church. And so they are making changes, and it's going to take a while just because, certain programs, they want to make sure it's all right and in alignment with the Lord and everything to make sure that it's where we need to be. But just so you know that they are very mindful of us, and they do know us. That is something I've heard some people say, is that the leaders don't care. Now, there are some local leaders that, that may not understand the single adult program. Let me put it that way, okay? May not understand the significance of the single adult program. But I do know, though, that the leaders do love us and they do care about us. Fred, did you have some comments or things you wanted to share about conference today? Is he still, yeah, Fred's still with us. Fred, can you hear me? Maybe not. Okay, when he comes back on. All right, did anyone else want to share their thoughts or takeaways from conference this weekend? Or even the single adult program?
I'd like to take a minute about what you just said about the leaders,
Okay.
talking about the single adults.
Mhm.
Before President Nelson became President Nelson, while he was serving as an apostle, he came here to our stake to set apart a new stake presidency, etc. And I actually got to speak to him about the need for a single adult program in our stake. And he assured me that he would talk to the stake president about it. He did so, and that's been, 2 or 3 years now since he was here. And this month I did get the opportunity to speak to our stake president, who confirmed that President Nelson had spoken to him, and that in the next 2 months he's going to try and have a meeting with me about my thoughts regarding the need for a single adult program. So things move slow. Some of the things that President Nelson is doing now, like having more emphasis on teaching in the home than, with church as a backup, that is something that I heard about 27 years ago, that the church was going in that direction. And it's just now coming to fruition with President Nelson. So things seem to take a lot of time to actually happen in the church.
Right. Well, if you think about it, I mean, quite honestly, they've got a lot of stuff to deal with and a lot of different things we don't even know about that they deal with.
Right.
But yeah, it does. I think Daniel had a question about how we get the message out that there are fun activities for single adults out there to other single adults. And that is our ongoing issue. That's probably the most common thing I complain about the most.
Okay.
But
can I put something out there?
Go ahead.
For the last 2 or 3 years, I have had a barbecue pool party, karaoke party that runs from like noon until 10 o'clock at night. And we usually only get 8 to 10 people here, but I have been asked to do it again this year.
Oh, wow.
And this has nothing to do with being sponsored by the stake or the ward or anybody else. It's just me having this function in my backyard and inviting whoever I know from Charlotte, Columbia, Atlanta, wherever, just so we can plan. And it's potluck, and we generally have 2 meals. And 1 year we went to a rec park and listened to a live band and danced there before coming back to my house for karaoke. But I'm interested in finding out what's going to be a good date for me to do it this summer.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. I'm like, I hope that doesn't conflict with anything we have planned. Anyway, so to answer your question, Daniel, what we have done is several things, because most leaders in our area anyway do not announce, and they've cut back on announcements anyway. Most still, though, don't even put them in the Sunday bulletin. So we create flyers. I've created an email list. I have got the Facebook group going. We've got an online calendar. And do you know, we do something every second Saturday, and we've been doing every second Saturday, I think in Atlanta for 30 years. I mean, I've been here since 2012, but every second Saturday, there are still people that say, I didn't know you guys did anything like that. And I'm like, how can you not know? I feel like I'm screaming it from the rooftops, right? And people still don't know. But we have a stake rep in most of our stakes, and we don't have them in all. In the 12 stakes, we have, I think, 8 stakes have a rep in the stakes. And in those stakes, we have 1 or 2 ward reps each. So that's really where it needs to fall down to, is having a functioning stake committee that then works with the wards, that work with the single adults there to help them get the word out. And it really helps us to have a nucleus in each ward of a home evening group or a come follow me study group. I think, Mary, aren't you doing one of those? Yep, Mary's doing one. I think Linda's doing one in Greenville. And those have worked out really well. Doing a come follow me study group like on Sunday afternoons, and then doing a home evening group during the week or whatever. But you create a nucleus, a group within your ward. Most wards have 10 to 20 active single adults. About 10%, right, of the ward will be active single adults. And you can get those people together, and if those ward people will then travel to stake events or regional events together, then we'll have a stronger program. And that's really where it's going to happen. Because as much as we want the leaders to announce, to put it in the Sunday bulletin and put little flyers all nice and pretty up on the bulletin boards, it's just not going to happen with every ward or every stake center. Okay, so I think it's really going to start with us, just being that one person that goes off to make a difference, to say, hey, I want to start a study group like Mary did in her stake, or like Linda's doing, or somebody, there's other people starting home evening groups, or people doing a game night at their house once a month, or whatever. But anyway, you're inviting the people in your ward, or maybe if you've got 3 wards meeting in your building, you can invite all the single adults over together, create that nucleus. And then you guys all be strong together, and then we can grow out to the regional level, and then, or the stake level, and then out to the regional level, and then beyond. And that is what's going to really make a difference. And then when somebody new, if you have that nucleus functioning, and somebody new is going through a divorce or widowed or whatever, they can come in and they've got this nucleus of friends to join instantly, instead of feeling like they're out there alone and by themselves. And then they'll be like, hey, well, we've got this ward thing we've got going on, and then we've got the stake thing, and then we've got this regional thing, or wherever you're at. I don't know where everybody lives or where everybody's from. I know most areas will have a stake versus a regional area. I know Charlotte and Atlanta have regional stuff going on. I think Orlando does as well. But most people just kind of function with a stake type thing. So, but that is how you get the word out. You've got to first form that nucleus of people, of friendship, that bond together. And home evening groups, or come follow me, whatever, you can do what I call the 20-20-20 plan. Spend 20 minutes of like a devotional, or the study time or whatever, 20 minutes of an activity, or an activity generally relating to what you're studying. Like if you're doing Come Follow Me, like watching the videos or something like that that goes along with that. And then 20 minutes of more social interacting, refreshments kind of thing. That's more of a home evening pattern, but you can also incorporate something similar to the Come Follow Me study groups as well. I don't know if that answered your question, Daniel. But that is generally what works the best, is just starting on a board level and then building up from there.
And I agree. I run into, you do have to start on a local level. Now, my family home eating group is for people who work, because a lot of us have a hard time getting together. There's also another group of single adults that get together during the day that don't work, that are retired or something like that, and they do a little bit more social things. They go out to lunch, those kinds of things, which, you know, the working group doesn't get to do very often, but we do still want to have a chance to sit down and just discuss things. And sometimes, I don't know if you've been into some of even the empty nester groups, sometimes you feel like a third wheel if you're just all by yourself. And so I want, you know, that's one of the reasons why we kind of got the group together too. So it just gives us a chance to get some input other than our dogs on what what the scriptures are talking about. Although my beagle does love the scriptures, I don't get a lot of feedback from him. So it's real important for me to have somebody that can bounce ideas off of or give a different perspective. But it really has to be local, just like everything else. I think the stake doesn't do everything for everybody in the wards either. The stake expects you to be able to handle your individual things, you know, and so, but it does take initiative, and people wanting to do like a karaoke thing in the backyard. That sounds like really fun. I can't sing that well, but you know, what the heck, you know.
It's karaoke. It's all good. I don't expect to be professional. So I love your comments there that, oh wow, Elizabeth said she didn't know there was a single adult program until the conference in Atlanta in August. Oh wow. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and that happens a lot, where we hear that a lot. And I think that it would help most people coming in new to have that ward nucleus, right? So then they know about that, and then it goes from there, because not everybody's going to hear about the regional stuff unless you got people in your ward or people that you know involved. But I do appreciate your comments there, Mary. That's awesome. And it is something for each one of us to just try to make a difference in some way in being able to reach out to other people and support each other, be there for each other. Okay. All right. That makes sense then. All right. That's cool. Well, Elizabeth, I'm glad to have you here. Now, if you guys don't mind, I know we've got a few new people here. Can you just unmute yourselves and tell us where you're from? Elizabeth, where are you from?
Sure. I'm Elizabeth Potter, and I'm from Ackworth Ward.
Ackworth what?
Ackworth Ward.
Oh, Ackworth. Oh, okay. Awesome.
Cartersville.
Yeah, that's
Cartersville
fabulous.
Steak.
Okay. So you've got Tom Barlow and Kylene Klein are your stake reps. Do you know them?
I do not.
Okay.
Gives me somebody to find out, though.
There you go. Brian Kellogg also lives in Cartersville, and he's usually on the calls, but he's probably with his sons tonight. We got a few that come from Cartersville to some of our events. That's awesome.
Great.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
All righty. And Karen?
Hi, I'm from Kingsport, Tennessee.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's awesome. Now, how close are you to Chattanooga?
About 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow. So you more north of them, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay, so are you closer to Nashville then?
No, we're 4 hours from Nashville.
Wow. Oh, wow.
We're not near anybody, really.
Well, I'm
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Karen, I lived in Johnson City, or actually in Gray, for several years.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then we have Daniel, the one who's Meijer. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you all?
Doing good. And where are you from?
I'm down here in Lakeland, Florida.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
Oh.
I just moved down here a couple years ago, and they called me to be the stake single adult rep, and I'm having a real hard time getting anyone excited about doing anything. It's just like pulling hair.
Mm-hmm.
It seems common
Anyway,
everywhere.
it's a challenge, and I keep praying and keep trying to do my best.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome to my world. It is one where I'm telling you. And not only that, no matter how much you try, no matter how many hours you pour in prayer and fasting and whatever, there's still going to be people be like, well, Paula, this was not good. You should have done it this way or whatever. I mean, it's just like, oh, so much complaining. And some of those people, I just want to go, come do it. Just come do it. You know? But yeah, but you're right. There are so many aspects to this program of just trying to get people involved. And what I have really realized deep down is so many people have their own perspective, for one thing, but they also have their own insecurities. They all have their own inhibitions. And then, like I said to begin with, this isn't a place they wanted to be. And so a lot of them don't want to accept this. They don't want to accept that they're single. They want to be like, okay, this is going to be a speed thing. I'm going to find somebody else. I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get back on a track where I'm married again and whatever. Some were able to do that. Some sadly make the, sorry, that probably shouldn't have been said, that's my opinion, make the choice to marry outside the church or, you know, leave the church or whatever. And that's more of a challenge for some people because they just felt like it needed to be a certain way, so they were going to give up and whatever. So really, we're dealing with a whole lot of gamut, a whole lot of variations of emotions, a whole lot of variations of behavior patterns and personalities and whatever else that, and a lot of people are in different stages of their grief and loss. And so a lot of them don't want to come to an event because that means they have to embrace their singleness. And not everybody wants to do that, you know? And I think for us in Atlanta, we've just tried to create it more of a group, big old group of friends is what I call it. Just come join our big old group of friends. And I want people to feel like they've got a place where they can go, where they can have a big group of friends instead of all the insecurities and whatever of going to the feeling of the youth dance all over again at our age, you know. And in a lot of ways it's still going to feel that way, but still trying to get past that and knowing that you're going to go have fun with your friends versus going to do something that may not feel fun to you. Like a dance may not feel fun to some people. But if you can look at it as, I'm going to go have fun with my friends, we're going to go sit around the table, we can goof off and be silly and whatever and have fun at our age, that's kind of a huge thing. So that tends to get a lot of people involved. I started doing the webinars just because I just felt like we needed to just come together to talk about being single in the church. We don't necessarily get to do that at a lot of our events. We don't get to, I know I'm a little bit more vulnerable than most because I'm leading this. So I shared things, you know, with you guys that are not always easy. And it's not like I know of anybody else I can talk to that will understand how it feels to be single. Because as much as friends in the church that are married want to understand, they just really don't until you've experienced it. So yeah, so that's just kind of it. Now, anybody else want to share your thoughts? Any of your takeaways from conference? I realize I introduced the new people, but to our new people, everybody's new. So let's introduce some of the other people. I guess you guys know me. I'm Paula. Mary is from. Mary, you want to tell everybody where you're from?
Yeah, I'm up in the Paulding area. I'm in the Villa Rica ward.
Are you in Powder Springs State?
I'm in the Powder Springs State. Yeah.
That's still one of the Atlanta metro areas. Cartersville, where Elizabeth is as well. Wynn is in North Carolina, Asheville area, correct?
Correct. And I had a high councilman. This is for, well, there I lost my mind again. The gentleman from Florida. I was talking about the difficulties with the single adult, trying to get single adults started up here again. And he was a high councilman. And he told me that he has in the past worked with single adults, and he's also been a bishop and a lot of other things, but he said that single adults is the hardest segment of the church to work with.
Amen.
All the variety and the age differences and all the differences with the individuals. And
Yeah.
it's the hardest group to work with. And so, it's an uphill struggle.
Thank you. And then Jennifer, I think you told us earlier, but you're in Richmond, Virginia, correct?
Richmond, Virginia, that's correct.
All right. And Carmen, you're in Alabama, correct? Dothan area, I think. You're muted. Yeah. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Cool. So Fred was on here. He's from Chattanooga. I guess he had to get off. He said his microphone wasn't working tonight. All right. So I appreciate you guys joining with me tonight and being a part of this. We will be talking about other things. We're going to go into some other topics next week. Tonight, I just wanted to come together and just do a takeaway from conference and just share some thoughts. But next week, we'll go back to our topics of different things. Each week, I'm going to try to, a lot of our topics are built around relationship building or personal development or spiritual growth or that kind of thing. But we will continue on next Sunday. Thank you guys so much for joining with me tonight and being a part of my Sunday evening. You guys are awesome.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Good night.
Night, everybody.